All right, I'm going to open the meeting at 6:31. For all of those of you in attendance, there is an attendance sheet going around. If you could please sign in. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to table the 6th grade leadership students to next month. Student Advisory Council. Ladies, you are up.
My name is Nora. I'm a senior. I'm Keelan. I'm a senior.
We didn't know that.
So for 12th grade, our Krispy Kreme fundraiser just came to an end, and it was a huge success. We're also finalizing the design for prom tickets, and we're planning on selling them this week. Also for the forum for any guests that are attending. We also want to do a cornhole tournament closer to the end of the year. We're working on that, so more details are going to come out soon. And then senior superlatives came out this week, and we're doing photos during advisory for them, and people made fun little medals for it too.
Our junior class is working hard on planning their junior prom, which will take place May 16th at the Hardwick Crossing, and they're hoping to keep fundraising for prom and other events, and their theme for prom is The Great Gatsby.
For the sophomore class, they had a St. Patrick's Day fundraiser. They raised over $3,000. They had 3 winners, and the first prize was at $500. It was super successful, and we're really excited for them.
Our 9th graders held a fundraiser around Valentine's Day. So it was a blind date with a book. So you got like a little raffle, and then you would get a book, and it would be covered, so you didn't know what book it was. And they also came with like candy, flowers, and all that stuff. They ended up with around 40 orders, and they're working on future fundraisers.
We had an education palooza on March 20th. That's for grades 8th through 11th. And it's just the purpose is to describe all the courses that are available to them next year and just give them that experience to see what they might be interested in.
This past weekend? No,
Yeah.
not the weekend. Yeah. The Quaboag Performing Arts Department put on the play Clue. They put on 5 performances consisting of an A and B cast. 4 performances? 4 performances. Gotcha. It was super popular. I loved it. And congratulations to all the performers. I don't have a clue.
For community service opportunities, so Marlene Fortin from the Volunteer Coordination for Warren, as well as the Parks and Recreation Department and Town Administration, is giving an opportunity to students and staff at Quaboag for Earth Day. It's a town-wide community cleanup on April 12th from 9 to 1:30.
So the Quaboag Regional Wind Ensemble will be joining the Auburn High School concert band to raise money for the Casey J. Hanfield Memorial Scholarship. It will take place on April 16th at 6:30 here at the Quaboag.
And then Quaboag Student Council, they had their annual Hyannis conference on March 5th. They won the Silver Council Award for the binder. And then also the mobile polar plunge ended up being postponed, but we'll do it next year.
Our fire and EMS program got the opportunity to go to the football field and have an experience with Life Flight. They were allowed 45 minutes to an hour asking questions to the flight medics on board and going through different pieces of equipment and comparing that to the scope of practice on an ambulance.
The Quaboag art students, both in NHS and NJHS, will be displaying all their artwork at the Miriam Gilbert Library exhibit. This is this week, April 1st. The first round of it is from 4 to 5, but it's open through the whole month and into May. And then also our Instagram page for the Quaboag Art has been doing a senior showcase, so just showing off some artworks that seniors are really proud of.
Recently, last week, we had a visitor, Mark Lineweaver, I believe. He was a speaker at the presentation. He's a sports and communications agent. The assembly focused mostly on the importance of student social media activity and character, how it builds your character and everything. The things we say and put on social media can have an impact on the rest of our lives. He really stressed the idea of making good decisions to uphold your character.
Sports, so spring sports have officially kicked off. It's been a really great first 2 weeks of the season. Varsity softball won against Sutton. Varsity baseball started against Tantascwa. Track and field has their first meet coming up. And then girls tennis won their first match on Thursday against Sutton. And then the boys match was today.
Our yearbook is being submitted within the next few weeks. Everything's being finalized, including senior superlatives, team photos, and class events. We had a yearbook contest, yearbook cover contest. So seniors were allowed to design a cover, and whoever was chosen, they won a Amazon gift card, I believe. So Lizzie Tetlow won the cover design. Students and teachers are preparing for the Galapagos trips. That takes
April break.
April break, yeah. Good.
Anybody have any questions? Because I got a few. No? Alright. So Caitlin, I saw somewhere that you were doing something outside of school. I guess it's, I don't know, what you inform the community and the audience what you're partaking in over, is it the summer or when
No,
you
it
starting
starts this week.
Okay.
So I'm running a youth field hockey clinic at both Warren and West Brookfield elementaries. So it's grade 1 through 6 and 3 weeks at each school. So this week it will be West Brookfield, the next couple of weeks will be at West Brookfield. I'll be teaching them how to play field hockey, incorporating fun into field hockey, learning the game, and just growing the sport. So.
That's great. And Ms. Norris, I have a question for you. I know you didn't make the first tennis match because you were where?
I was in Oklahoma visiting my brother at Fort Sill. He just recently graduated from basic Army training, and he just moved to Texas, and he's going to be like a special analyst, intelligence kind of person in the Army, so that's exciting. I don't know the full name, it's kind of complicated, but...
I don't think anybody knows the full name, but it's funny. So my son calls and he goes, "Dad, I just got a call from the government. They wanted me to be a character witness for Will." I'm like, "Well, what did you say?" He says, "Well, I said good things." I said, "Well, that's good." I just thought it was odd that the government is calling a bunch of 18-year-olds. I guess Andrew got called. A bunch of them got called. I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." So, well, it must have been nice to see him.
It
So.
was.
All right. Well, I know you guys probably have some homework to do, studying, APs coming up another month or so, right?
Yeah.
So you are free to go. You're free to sit and listen to Josh. Josh, they stole a little bit of your thunder, but you're next.
I'm Josh. I'm Vice President of Student Council, and I'm a senior. I'm going to talk about the Hyannis trip that our Student Council does every year. We're pretty much just a few select people. We go to the Cape, and we do a bunch of activities with student councils from across Massachusetts. We get a bunch of ideas, and we bring them back here to execute them. The Polar Plunge, which I'm sure all of you have heard about since we've been on all of you about it, is we pretty much we raise money for Special Olympics. All donations fund inclusive experiences for more than 19,000 Special Olympics athletes and the 10,000 plus volunteers in Massachusetts. We all participated in the 2025 annual Polar Plunge at Hyannis, and we raised about $2,000. Like they said, we were supposed to have one here in a truck, but it got canceled, so we're not. We had a few keynote speakers that pretty much just go up and speak to all the student councils about certain leadership qualities that they can teach us. We had Mike Smith, a motivational speaker and CEO of 2 nonprofits. He speaks about empowering youth, encouraging them live, their passions, and how to make a difference in the community. We had Kara Filler. She was my favorite personally. I really liked her. She was a youth motivational speaker and speaks about making positive choices, dealing with peer pressure, avoiding risks like reckless driving. She drew on the tragic loss of her twin sister. Her message was centered around the power of choice and everyday decisions. And then we went to a formal dinner on the last day of the trip. It's 3 days long, and they honored the administrator, advisor, and student leader of the year, the impact of Special Olympics, and the MASC board and the student council presidents from every school. This year, so every year we make a binder that we submit for like a competition against other schools, and we won the Silver Council of Excellence. It's our first time winning something in 10 years, and we were pretty proud of ourselves. At the conference, we listened to many inspirational speakers, participated in leadership workshops, raised money for Special Olympics, took the plunge into the ocean, bonded as a council, and met so many new friends from other schools. This trip was valuable in hearing other council successes and just truly coming together as a state to celebrate everything MASC had accomplished in the past year. That's it.
Anybody have any questions for Josh?
That's a question. So, Josh, when I was in high school, I had the opportunity to go a couple of times on that. It was one of my favorite trips. I'm sorry if I missed this, but how many kids go from Quaboag to that?
It changes every year. It depends on just who wants to go and who gets in all of their essays and stuff. This year, we only had 6 kids going, but it was a pretty good time still. Last year, there were, I think, around 8 or anywhere from like 8 to 10. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, so outside of the student council vice president, what else do you do at Quaboag? Give you a little shameless plug here.
I'm in NHS. I do theater a lot. I'm in chorus, I'm in band, and I think that covers it all.
Okay. So out of all the plays that you've done in theater, which one's your favorite?
Beauty and the Beast.
Isn't it?
Definitely,
Okay.
yeah. Gaston. I was Gaston. He was a very fun character to play.
Yeah. That's fun. All right. And then as a senior, what are your plans next year?
I'm going to college for theater and psychology at UMaine.
You man. Nice. Congratulations. So, we know where the girls are going because they've been here before. So you know, all the new seniors get that same question. So. You want to introduce Mr.
Sure.
Urban? I could introduce Mr. Urban.
Sure,
but
go ahead.
You go right ahead.
So up next, we have Mr. Urban, who is our district-wide safety committee chairperson. Eric is responsible for putting meetings together on a monthly basis with all of our public safety officials, including Massachusetts State Police, local fire and local police, and different representatives from the buildings, including administration. Every year, we improve on our safety and crisis plans, and we had one of the biggest trainings that we've had that we haven't had yet as a district. That's going to put us in a position if we ever, unfortunately, had to execute a reunification. That was one step that we were missing that Mr. Urban brought to the district with some key helpers a couple weeks ago or last week.
All right, so Mr. Duff's my Vanna White tonight, my slide advancer. So I'm going to bounce between here and there. So the training was on our PD day on March 20th. That was a half day. So on that day, we had 51 faculty and staff members from across the district come to Quaboag in the afternoon to go through the reunification training. The good thing about the reunification training is that it forced us to identify roles and people who would serve in those roles should we need to do a reunification setting. So before that, honestly, we didn't have that. So across the 3 schools, there's probably about 60 people total. There were a few people who were out that day. So we were able to bring them in for a training. It worked out really well. In attendance, we had our local police and fire. So we had Warren and West Brookfield Fire Departments, Warren Police, the state police. But you notice on here, I have MEMA and also the Lee Police Department. So MEMA they asked to come, Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency. They don't typically do this type of stuff, but in an emergency they would, and they don't have a school reunification plan. So they came to observe it. And the Lee Police Department, believe it or not, is Lee's an hour away. So they don't do this in Lee. They are looking to get this going. There's not a lot of resources outside of lockdowns for police departments. So whenever there's trainings like these, you might see other agencies. So yeah, I underlined Lee because they made the hour trip out. So who did it was the Western Mass School Safety Task Force. So basically they're members of the Massachusetts State Police and the Franklin County Sheriff's Department up in the Greenfield area who work typically west of the Connecticut River in Northampton. So that's typically the breakdown or the line. But we were able to get that through a special request through Lieutenant Shea and through our Brookfield Barracks. So we actually booked that training back in August, and we had it in March. So that's how long it takes to get these trainings. The interesting thing is Trooper Gilboa, who I've worked with a little bit in the past, this was probably her last training. She's went to be a drill instructor at the police academy starting this week. So we probably had her last training, and I've known Captain Hahi and Officer Carmichael for a while now. So in a reunification setting, or in a really bad event, the big thing is, you always hear this all the time, the cops own the crime, fire owns the flames, and the schools own the students. So in a really bad reunification setting or scenario, if we had to go that route, we would be essentially responsible for reunification on our own for a while before help arrived. So these types of events, you don't want to learn on the job, you want to learn and plan ahead of time. So typically in a reunification setting, events or circumstances dictate that students are personally returned to their parent or guardian. It's all about accountability and safety. These are the core tenets of reunification. We just can't let anybody go with anybody. We can't let them go with a neighbor or something. It's a very systematic, accountable approach to return students to their families. So reunification can be used for all sized events. Unfortunately, we think about the really bad stuff you hear on the TV, but they can be used for something as simple as a train car incident where there's walkers. We have train tracks that go through the center of town. So if a train flipped over downtown Warren and there's hazardous materials, we might use a reunification setting to reunify those students, or if there's a bus routes and they're there, we could reunify them. A bus accident. I think we had maybe a fender bender. We would bring them to, say, a town hall or a reunification setting and reunify them that way instead of on the side of the road. So they also can be used for a natural disaster. We don't think of like really bad natural disasters happening, but look what happened in like Burnfield and Munson with the tornadoes a few years ago. So any expected, unexpected stuff like that, and obviously police activity. So the training itself consisted of a PowerPoint, about 45 minutes to an hour, and then a practical training. During the practical session, what worked out well is the state police and the Franklin County Sheriff's Department threw some curveball at our staff members. And our staff members properly identified those curveballs and did not release students to that family in that situation. So our staff who was here, who participated, really good job. You caught the curveballs and you did what you're supposed to do in that setting. And as much as this was a controlled setting, it was still new to us and it was a little nerve-wracking probably. So good job to those people. After the training, we had a debriefing. So that allowed us to talk to the trooper, talk to the sheriffs, bring up any other questions. So all in all, it was a really good session in that sense. And then in the following days, I had people who have roles identified still talking about what would they do, how would they respond in that. So it was good because it got the dialogue going too. Okay. So this is really important for really anyone who's a parent, a family member, a guardian, not just here, but at every school. You always want to keep your contact information up to date, regardless of if it's about safety or not. If a teacher has to talk about grades or reach out, or the school nurse has to call, you always want to make sure, A, that your contact information is up to date. This is a big one, though, right here. You want to keep all your custody and probate, and unfortunately, if there's restraining orders information, up to date too, so that the school has that. So in a setting, we're not reunifying a student with somebody that they shouldn't be reunified with. This one's a hard one, right here. In a situation, please do not respond to the school. Kind of a hard pill to swallow, very honestly, but listen to instructions from Mr. Duff or myself about where to respond. It was in Sandy Hook where they have pictures of just hundreds of cars near the school. You couldn't get anything down the road. So please just listen for announcements, be it via text, phone call, whatever, and follow those directions, and that will help out a lot. And then last but not least, in general, when you come to our schools anyways, you usually ask for an ID. Please make sure that you have your ID with you. That will make the reunification process go quicker. So the next steps really are just to continue on with reunification, some additional trainings for administration, dialogue. I cannot say enough about this one right here. Continued working relationships with the local police and fire departments and the Massachusetts State Police. Something for a side note that I thought was a compliment to us in our last safety meeting. One of the troopers brought up that For their jurisdiction, they have about 7 different districts. When I looked up the number of towns, we are the only school that has the state police at the table on a regular basis. They're not just coming in for drills. They're not just coming in for trainings. They're actually at the table during safety meetings. And last but not least, like Mr. Duff says, we've done a lot in the past 2 years. So since I took over last year, we've had either 18 meetings and or small trainings. So I think that's pretty impressive. Good, that's it. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? So I don't have necessarily a question, but I have, well, maybe it's a question. So I understand that after you did this, you got high praises from somebody.
Okay.
Who were you getting high praise? Was it the Lee Police Department? Was it the emergency management? I heard that somebody was very impressed with, you know, the level that you were doing.
I'm smiling. It's the first I hear of it, but I'll take it. It's a team effort, very honestly.
Oh, really?
It's a team effort, yeah.
I remember who I heard it from. I remember hearing it, you know, one of the agencies that was here.
Yep.
Gave very high praises to you and, you know, the whole.
And it's
community,
really-
everybody that, you know, that did what they did.
It's everybody who is participating. It's a group effort, so.
So, all right, well, I mean, on behalf of the school committee, you know,
Yeah.
thank you for doing what you do to, you know, keep the students safe.
Yeah, hopefully we never have to use it,
Hopefully
and,
we never have to use it,
Yep.
absolutely.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, Mr. Duff, you are up. Superintendent's report.
In your packet, you had the school year 25-26 calendar. We need to vote the calendar in our March meeting, so I'm asking for approval of the proposed SY 25-26 calendar.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Good Friday on that.
Yep. It's still a full day of school.
Okay, was that 2 years ago, what was it?
2 years ago, it was no school. Last year, it was school, or this year, it is school.
This current school, it was school because of where it fell on the vacation week, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And were we planning on switching that back, or are we gonna remain a full day of school?
At this point, the recommendation is that we remain a full day of school.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. Matt, I didn't even see you come in. You snuck in.
Yeah, I snuck in, I didn't wanna make a scene.
You must have come in
I was
outside.
saving it for the
You know,
calendar
that's-
question.
All right.
I did have the privilege of attending the Warren Selectmen's meeting on Thursday night to present the preliminary budget that we had discussed at our Monday night school committee meeting. The presentation, I felt, went really well. They were receptive to the conversations that we were having. I think that they understand the difficulty that the district is having in terms of the state adequately funding school districts. We did talk, and I'll talk a little bit in the budget presentation, but I think that if we all look at what's happening around the state right now with all the districts, with the shortfall that they're having with their budgets, you know, I would say that the piece for a lot of districts is they are now where we were 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, where they have the ability to cut things like curriculum leaders and coaches, and not that you ever want to cut that, because that would be the last thing I would want to do, but they have the ability to cut some positions that aren't directly in front of kids, you know, and unfortunately, we're in a different position. But I did explain this to the town of Warren, to the select board. I will be presenting at the next available opportunity to the West Brookfield Advisory Board. But the select board, they were amicable to where we were at. I know things can change with state numbers and funding, so we'll see where we end up with it. And then the MSBA I included in your packet. We did put in for a statement of interest for doors and windows in West Brookfield. We were accepted for that project back in 2017. But they changed the goalpost. They moved it from 25 years to 30 years after we had, which I think honestly, this time around, I'm hoping it'll work to our benefit because they had invested about $100,000, not the school district, but the state, in the schematic plans for West Brookfield, which we still had on file. So when I put in the statement of interest, I also included the plans that they had drawn up for the original plan, so we should be hearing back from them probably, I would say, beginning of June or so. All right, and then we did do interviews last week for QRMHS principal. I will be meeting with the search committee tomorrow after school, and I'll provide the committee with an update on how that meeting goes.
All right, we have two sets of minutes to approve. First one's February 24th, 2025. Anybody has any additions, subtractions, grammatical errors? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the regular.
Nope, you weren't here, you can't.
Can't make the motion?
I don't think so,
Why not?
because you weren't part of it.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Which one are we looking at? What's the date on it?
February 24th.
Second.
Travis.
I abstain, Andrew, for the record.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? You abstained, two you weren't
Was
here.
I here?
February I wasn't here?
Yeah, no, February and, actually, both of them you weren't here, so,
My bad.
that's okay. 8:03. All right. Regular meeting minutes of March 24th, 25. And then when I wasn't here, it was Angela, so you can do that one, Mr. Burgess.
My feelings are hurt. I'm gonna pass.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of March 24th, 2025.
Second.
Motion made, and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. All right. In our packet, we have all the things that Mr. Duff was talking about, including the minutes and one item that we're going to talk about next in financial business matters. So we have a previous year invoice, correct? That because it's a previous year invoice, it does need school committee approval. Correct?
Correct.
All right. You want to give us an update on it?
Yep, it is a Fire Equipment Incorporated invoice for $488.26. The work was to work on some deficiencies with the fire alarms in West Brookfield. The invoice was originally sent to an incorrect address, which is why we did not receive it. And I am looking for school committee approval to pay this.
Okay. Quick question, where are the funds coming from?
They'll be general fund.
General fund, okay. All right, any other questions?
So, sorry, the approval is because it was from last year's?
Yeah, so
Correct.
any fiscal year outside of this one, we have to approve.
All right, thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the 52924, no, is that right? Yeah, 52924 invoice from Fire Equipment Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, we're good with that one. All right, so before we get to the preliminary budget presentation, because I'm gonna steal a little bit of Mr. Duff's thunder, I know he always says, you know, he appreciates what the school committee budget subcommittee does in preparation for the budget, but I would like to actually thank Mr. Duff, Finance Director Gonsalves, you know, Dr. Esposito, Mr. Estrella, Mr. LaJoy, the building principals and the administration for all the work that you guys did in building this budget. You know, the budget subcommittee, I won't say has the easy job of it, but you definitely make it much easier for us by coming with all the information that you guys come for. So on behalf of the representative of the budget subcommittee, I appreciate the work that you guys do. That being said, Mr. Duff.
All right.
Floor is yours. Do I need to click or anything for you?
No, I'll bring it up there with me. I asked Travis.
Look at you, you're fancy.
It's removal.
You could just bring this, right? I could have clicked for you. I could have.
Keep the tempo.
Travis, good?
Make him go quicker, you know?
So, first and foremost, I am going to steal my thunder back for a minute and tell you the budget subcommittee. We've been meeting for the last 3 months, anywhere from 2 to 3 times a month to come up with a budget that we think is the best budget that we can put forward. We've worked extremely hard. We've turned this budget inside out over the last 3 months to get to where we are today. And it's still a tall ask. It's a big order. However, it's a budget that when we go to the towns and we talk to the towns, and I think this is the most important thing with us being transparent, talking about where we're at, having members of the town here as well during some of our meetings, so they can actually see what our budget process looks like. So to the budget subcommittee and to the school committee, the time that you give to this district, to our staff, to our students, to our administration, for a job that you don't get paid for, and you give this time up to make sure that we have everything that we can possibly have, I can't thank you enough for that. So with that being said, our vision obviously is to safe, supportive, and challenging learning environment. We foster on building partnerships within our communities. We have partnerships through the theater, through programs that we run, through NHS, through the daily interactions that our staff have with kids and with families. Our school is built around our community and around our students, and I can't be more proud of the things that we do to keep our district moving in the right direction. We always talk about efficiency efforts that we make. WBES, last year we did a building envelope project where we did the door sweeps and windows. We just got a Green Communities grant that we're going to do the interior building envelope, which is like the roof vents and insulation. So we partnered with West Brookfield, the town of West Brookfield, on a Green Community grant for that. This summer, we have our IVAC grant, which is a grant for $304,000 from the state, as well as incentives. The total cost of the project is roughly $143,000. That will cost the towns nothing. But I know that the staff and the students at Quaboag will appreciate having the right temperature in each classroom rather than going from 60 to 90 to 20. There's not a lot of efficiency there. So these projects help us drive our budgets down when we're being more efficient with oil. We did apply for the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program for doors and windows. I can't tell you the cost of that. I can tell you it's very expensive, but we will find out what it is for the reimbursement rate. So MSBA typically reimburse anywhere from 70 to 80% of a project total. So if we can get the doors and windows done, which we've been talking about in our building subcommittee meetings for a long time, that would be super helpful. Last year, we completed a total projects of just over $1.1 million, including lighting, HVAC system, and Warren. All right, and like we talked last year, the DOER inspector, when he came out to Quaboag, said that we are the most progressive district that they've been in. We have our innovation pathway grants, work-based learning capital grants, QRMHS, after school, WCES enhancement, internship grants, middle school grants, Acceleration Academy, Student Opportunity Act, which allowed us to have 2 literacy coaches this year, not just 1. So roughly $804,000 in grants to help offset not only salaries for like literacy coaches, but also curriculum, which is huge. So we know the budget, and there are driving factors that go into the budget, and there's numbers that we cannot control. And I think it's important, and I was very clear with the town on this. Last year, the school committee voted to sign on for our 5th year with WISAC, which was a 2% increase over our transportation budget the year before. That's when districts were seeing an 18 to 20% increase over transportation. So last year we hit it out of the park on transportation, only doing 2%, and we got upwards of $1.3 million in reimbursement. So that helped our bottom line last year. This year, it's a little bit different because we did have to go out to bid for transportation. We utilized the state. The state allows you to take in a state contractor to come in. The cost of that is $10,000, but it's reimbursed through transportation, so it actually costs the district nothing. So when we went out to bid, for our transportation this year. The vendor was able to hit over 60 different third-party vendors that offer transportation. Unfortunately, we only had 2 responses. Okay, so with those 2 responses, the increase of transportation was 8%. So the vendor that went out for a bid for us said that we were fortunate to get 8%, but even being fortunate to get 8% means a $352,000 increase in transportation this year. Our special education tuition went up $286,000. We have kids that move into district, or we have kids that we place out of district. But if a student moves into our district prior to April 1st, that is an out-of-district student, we incur the cost of that tuition and we have to pay it for the remainder of that year. We do get some of that money back. I'm not going to bore everybody with circuit breaker, but we do get some of that money back. But if I have a student that moves in FY25, we don't get that money back until FY27. It's always a year beyond as we're planning. Health insurance went up $286,000 for active members. Our health insurance for our retirees went up $85,000. Our special education transportation went up $154,000. Our Worcester County retirement went up $79,000. So right off the gate when we're walking out the door, we're $1.3 million behind where we were last year without us having any control over that. Those were our uncontrollable costs. All right, our operating budget, we have assessments. Our operating assessments go to Warren and they go to West Brookfield. This year, Warren makes up 60.06, is it, Nikki?
Yes.
Or 4? 60.06%, and West Brookfield has a remaining 39.94%. All right, so the total operating assessment, our proposed assessment this year to the town of Warren is $4,993,715, which is roughly a $600,000 increase over last year. All right, transportation, this is where transportation hurt. Their assessment, which we'll see on the final slide, we take the total amount of transportation minus what we expect to get back, which gave us, I'll get to it on the other side, but it's roughly $1.4 million. Warren owns 60% of that, West Brookfield owns 40% of that, so Warren's share for transportation this year is $838,000, which is a $193,000 increase. The above minimum contribution, in order for us to be able to operate at a level funded budget or a level service budget, the above minimum local contribution asked this year is $904,923, which is an increase from last year of $136,004. The minimum local contribution is what the state requires the town to pay. The above minimum contribution is what the town people would vote on in order to give the district additional funding beyond what the towns are required to pay. This year, Warren's minimum local contribution is $3,250,310, which is roughly a $300,000 increase from what they were required to give last year. West Brookfield, the total operating assessment for West Brookfield is $5,081,964, which is roughly a $440,000 increase from last year. Transportation is $557,631, which is that 40% of the total assessment, which is an increase of $109,000. Their above minimum contribution, last year they gave $534,000. This year we're asking for $603,000, which is about a $70,000 increase. The minimum local contribution, what they're required to give, went from $659,000 to $3,659,000 to $3,921,000, which is about a $261,000 increase that they have to give. What do we take in for money? Well, from our town assessments, we're looking at $10,075,679. State aid went up a whopping $34,000. Other revenues is up $32,650. E&D, we're projecting to use $400,000 this year. Capital revenues are down $5,221,000, which is a difference of $1,375,200. $209. Chapter 70 is what drives us. And this is what, when you read in the papers, you hear about Andover, you hear about North Brookfield, you hear about Dudley Charlton, you hear about all these districts that don't have enough money to cover their operating expenses. It is driven by your Chapter 70 number. Our Chapter 70 number increase is $77,185 from last year. So when we walk out of the gate, when we walk out of the door with a $1.3 million deficit to start an uncontrollable cost, and we're getting an additional $77,000 to help cover that cost, it leaves you at a $1.2 million deficit right off the bat. Those are where the uncontrollable costs are really hurting our districts. I've been to several legislative meetings in West Boylston and Amherst. We've talked with Representative Smoller, Representative Berthew, Senator Durant, Senator Oliveira about supporting our local schools. We used to have the hold harmless status was originally geared towards 131 school districts. It's geared towards 271 school districts now. The hold harmless is, even if your enrollment's going down, we're not going to hold you accountable to that. What's happening across the state is more districts are qualifying for their hold harmless aid, and the state's not adequately funding schools. That's the bottom line. Transportation reimbursement, our original number, if you guys remember, was $855,000. I would like to thank Finance Director Gonzalez for getting it up to $1,348,985, which was actually a $9,000 increase. If we were sitting at the $855 that was originally projected, then we'd be looking at a deficit of $2 million, not $1.5 million. So Nikki, thank you so much for your hard work on that. Oh. All right, so operating expense summary, district-wide. FY 25 to 26 overall, we have an increase of about $1,285,000. Our school choice sending out, when we send kids out, it costs us money. It's $685,000. Our charter school sending is $92,628. Our capital debt services is down $5,000 for our total expenditure difference of $1,236,682. Operating by campus district is a $466,000 difference. Warren Elementary is $264,000. West Brookfield is $308,000, and Quaboag is $248,813. Our transportation, as you can see, this is how transportation works. Our total budget was $1.8 million. Special education is $926,000. McKinney Dental and Foster Care brings our total up to $2,745,000. Our estimated state aid off of our DLS sheet, off of our cherry sheet, is roughly $1.348,958. We break that down. We take the $1.4 million, we multiply it by 60.06. That gives Warren's assessment for transportation at $838,000 and West Brookfield's assessment at $557,631. So preliminary budget summary, our uncontrollable expenses, we know our health insurance, Worcester County retirement, regular and special education tuition and transportation, contract service increases. Our controllable expenses, and I'm super proud of our staff, number one, but I'm also super proud of our building administrators, Dr. Esposito, Mr. LaJoy, everybody that made this team up to figure out ways not to increase our line items, including staff, because we knew that this was a difficult budget year going in, and it's a big ask of $900,000 and $600,000 from our towns, so we had no increases there. So with our uncontrollable increase of roughly $1.25 million and state increase of $77,850, we're requesting an additional $136,000 above minimum contribution from what we got from Warren last year, an additional $68,948 above minimum contribution from the town of West Brookfield next year. With that being said, like I talked, many districts are facing this challenge right now. I can tell you that we have cut everything that we can possibly cut. There is barely anything left. Our teachers do an extraordinary job every day. Our paras do an extraordinary job. Our administration does an extraordinary job of supporting our kids and our programs every day. If this preliminary budget, or the budget that we approve tonight, does not pass, there will be cuts. I'm just going to be very clear with that. There's nowhere else to go within our budgets. And on a rule of thumb is, and I'm not using just teachers as an example because we'll find every way that we can cut, but a rule of thumb is for every $120,000 that we have to decrease our budget is equivalent to roughly 3 teachers. Okay, but you have 2 and then you have unemployment on top of that. So at every $120,000, if we have to make these types of cuts, I'm going to tell you class sizes are going to increase. We're going to have programs that are going to decrease with offerings for students, and things are going to be limited. Unfortunately, the state has not adequately funded public schools. I will argue that till I'm blue in the face. We've had this argument day after day after day. We are at a point in this district where we're going to continue to ask our towns to fill that gap between what the state inadequately funds and what is absolutely the bare minimum we need to operate this district. And that gap every year is getting bigger and bigger. And every year it gets bigger and bigger. It puts that much more burden on our taxpayers in order to be able to support our budget. I do want to give a huge shout out to the residents of Warren and the residents of West Brookfield, because year after year they've come up to the tune of $1.2, $1.3 million more than they have to give to support our staff and our students. And that speaks volumes about the community we live in. My recommendation to the school committee is to support this budget. This is a bare bone budget. I wish I could add more to it, but at the same time, we have to be very cautious about what our towns are able to give. Questions?
Anybody have any questions? All right, so I don't necessarily have a question, but just a comment. So the uncontrolled increases that you mentioned earlier, $1,250,160. Total increase of our budget from last year, $1,236,682. Again, I think the administration has done a fantastic job in creating this budget for this fiscal year. So, not a question, I guess, just a comment. So, does anybody else have any questions or comments? I mean, obviously, as we all know, once we vote this budget, it cannot go up, it can go down. You know, we only have the governor's preliminary numbers. We don't have the House numbers, we don't have the Senate numbers, we don't have the governor's final numbers. Unfortunately, we have to vote our budget 45, 60 days before the town meetings to allow them to put it on the warrant. So that's why we vote our budget without knowing really what the state's gonna give us, which is kind of a scary thought, so.
Not a question specific to the budget, because we've been living it for the last 6 months, so I think we asked every question that we had. But a question regarding the timing, to your point, Schwenker, Mr. Schwenker. What is the best estimate for what the timelines look like for some of the numbers to come in? We're just looking at June?
Could be early June. It could be within the next month and a half. You know, and there is a big push, and there's a big coalition of school districts now that are finding themselves, like I said, finding themselves in a position we've been in for the last 10 years, which is unfamiliar territory to them. We've been screaming and barking about this for 10 years, but now you have quite a few districts screaming and barking about it. So if they're going to make any moves, the moves will come in the conference committee.
Do you anticipate, just not to bring politics into this, but with the charged political landscape that we're currently in right now, do you picture the release of those numbers to maybe be even further delayed just because of some of the dynamics that are being dealt with at the government levels from?
So there's many different areas that between the governor and the president and where their initiatives are. You know, SOA was hugely about early literacy, we're gonna push that again to hope that we can have literacy coaches continue within our district, because it's instrumental, but it all depends on which platform they're gonna push and how, honestly, the conference committee can move those funds around. I would hope to see a fairly significant increase, and fairly significant, I would say $100,000 in minimum aid. Last year, we walked in at $30 per kid, which gave us a little over, I don't know, $45,000, and then they promised up to 110, they settled at 104, which was a $77,000 bump in our budget last year, which helped offset the above minimum contribution. I'm hoping to see $100,000 in minimum aid, and then what they do with SOA or rural aid. You do have not Senator Goby anymore, but Ann Goby is the commissioner for rural aid, and she understands the small town dynamics, being from this area and understanding how that can significantly impact school districts of our size. I'm hoping, and she's a champion for districts like us. Hopefully rural aid can come in at a better number. And all of those funds will help to offset that above minimum contribution, because it's hard when that above minimum continues to climb and the towns are not forced, but they're asked to close that gap when there's only so much money that they have within their towns. It just makes it difficult for everybody. And that's where you get departments pinned against departments. And unfortunately, I'm going to fight for our teachers and for our students because it's the right thing to do. But if we can work, proactively together to help offset some of this, then that's what we need to do.
I'll jump up real quick, just to kind of piggyback on the fact that we have those costs that are uncontrollable. I kind of want to make it clear too that they weren't ignored in many ways. If you look at, for example, the busing cost, uncontrollable at the same point, that was something that went out to bid. That was something that we, as a school district, did our due diligence to make sure that we were very conscientious as to every opportunity we had to get the best rate we could. Many of those are, uncontrollables are not ignored within our district. So we're kind of recognizing that as the fact that every step's being made in those to try to get the best cost. Unfortunately, they are costs that we are limited in that control of.
I agree.
Any other questions? Mr. Morgan.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2026 Quaboag Regional School District budget of $22,608,334, consisting of operational expenses of $22,474,983 and capital debt expense of $133,351, and to fund the proposed budget with an assessment to the town of Warren consisting of $4,993,714 for operational expenses and $133,351 for debt expenses, for a total assessment of $5,127,065, and an assessment to the town of West Brookfield consisting of $5,081,964 for operational expenses and $0 for debt expenses, for a total assessment of $5,081,964, and that changes made in state aid and spending requirements may result in changes being made to the assessment to each community.
Read that one more time.
No, I will not.
Motion made, do I have a second? Greg? Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. All right, we'll continue to work on that. All right, subcommittee updates.
Yeah, we just did everything.
Mr. Morgan, that's it. We'll meet again in April.
That's right.
Personnel Subcommittee, Mr. Landine is not here, but we are in the midst of QEA negotiations, and we do have another meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. Mr. Morse?
Nothing at this time.
Nothing at this time. Mr. Burgess?
We did not have a building subcommittee meeting because we were so focused on the budget. Our next meeting is April 14th, 6 p.m.
All right, we don't have any new business. This is a time in the meeting where we have the opportunity for visitors and guests to make statements and/or ask questions. If anybody has any, I don't need to go over the ground rules of what's appropriate or not appropriate in public comment. But if anybody does have any questions, I can go over them. Otherwise, if you do have a question or a comment, if you could come to the front, just tell us who you are so the microphone can pick you up. Anybody? I appreciate all of you coming and listening to our budget that we've been living for the last countless months. Ray, I know you're out there somewhere. You have any questions or comments? I will say that Mr. Quaboag is a member of the Warrant Finance Committee, and he has been at every one of our budget subcommittees in the past probably year and a half, so I appreciate you taking a town interest in our budget, Ray. That being said, going once, going twice? Okay. We do not have an executive session, so I will entertain one more motion.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Oh my goodness, I didn't think anybody was gonna make it. Do I have a second? Got Craig. All right, all in favor? Thank you, everybody.